Yeah, I'm like, is this OSHA approved? Like, looks like something I do, and that's not good.
Is everybody set with their recording? And for this, is AJ all set?
He walked out on his phone, so we can assume it's good.
Well, it is 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. Start with the pledge of allegiance to the spirit. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome everyone to the regular Planning Commission meeting, August 11, 2026. And recognition of new member Mark Lane, who has joined us. Thank you, Mark, for saying yes, and look forward to hearing from you. And Travis, welcome back. You've been reappointed for another term.
Oh, yay.
And for those of you that are not here tonight, but that you are thankful to have the ability to watch the replay from the comfort of your home, please know that we have two people reporting. We have Alex Bushman, the Township Supervisor, and also Julie Waterman here from Bank Citizens United. So if you appreciate their service, please be sure to let them know. I know I do. I go back and watch meetings and try to sort through things. So it's a wonderful service for us, and I don't know of any other township our size that has such a service. So let's see. We have the regular people here. Curtis is our zoning administrator. Ken Lane from Beckett and Rader. Cindy's our recording secretary, and we are your planning commission. We're gonna start with the approval of minutes. I sent one correction to Cindy. It would be page 2, 8D. I just wanted to give our planning consultant Ken Lane from Beckett and Rader the full credit for all the things that were accomplished, and I added to the bottom and schedule of regulations. So we talked about setbacks, and I want to make sure that that's recorded in our minutes that was discussed. So any other additions or corrections to our minutes?
No.
And if not, I would take a motion to approve minutes as corrected. Motion by Mark.
I'll support.
Support by Dave. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. I want to mix up our order just a little bit regarding our agenda here. I want to talk about Lakeshore Zone Waterfront Overlay before we talk about recreational vehicles. I just want to let you know that we're switching that up, and that's for flow of information. The way the information flows, it'll be better that way. So at this time, we would take any public comment. Julie.
Hi, Julie Waterman. As many of you have heard, there's an effort underway to recall Clerk Bishop for her activities with qualified voter file, and I am the captain for Banks Township, Ellsworth. I have a form here if anybody's interested, and they like to sign it so that when the petition goes live, we know who to contact quickly. This isn't the petition itself, this is just an interest form. So if anybody's interested, they contact me, or I'll always have these forms on me until we go live with the petition signatures. So thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Anybody else?
Sure.
Marv?
Yeah, just comment on a few things coming up. Last month we talked about decibels at natural resource extraction, and 65 decibels is reasonable. I think you should really consider not be discriminatory. 65 decibels for any use, no matter what it is. And you know, you're going to be talking about data centers. 65 is a good number for them as well, and talk about that for the whole township, so that everybody is on the same page. Regarding data centers, I personally am not in favor or opposed to data centers, but I think we need to look at them objectively and scientifically with real, truthful data. And I hope to make a goal to visit a data center at some point so that we can have some firsthand knowledge. And I would encourage all the rest of you to do that as well. What I find, there's 3 in Grand Rapids and 1 in Alpena, are the closest ones to us at this point. We talked a bit about reviewing the zoning map, and just wanted to let you know some of the discussion that was made on that, and that was that reflect on the possibility of combining and changing and combining zones so that it can correlate with the lakeshore zone, so you could have a lakeshore conservation zone with smaller parcels and then lakefront, and you could have an agriculture recreation zone where a lot of the larger parcels for recreation and agriculture overlap each other as far as uses go, and so you wouldn't need to add a zone, you could just modify them to have the larger parcels in ag and recreation, and then lakeshore and conservation in a different zone. So just some thoughts to set the stage for moving forward.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay. All right, very good. Well, Ken, I put you first because I missed you the last time, so that's your punishment.
Well, and I agree that, not taking a pro or con position on data centers. What I passed out to the planning commission was 2 studies. One was done by the University of Michigan. The other was done by the Land Use Institute, and it was sanctioned by the Data Center Product Council. So very, I thought, well-written, easy to read. They differentiate between the real small scale ones, which is Alpena, to the hyperscale ones, which is what everyone I think is concerned about. And they go through and, describe in detail the pros and the cons, and they both give sample language for zoning ordinances too. So good information. And then I will be attending Michigan Township Association training in Gaylord at the end of the month. And one of the topics is data centers, as well as short-term rentals. So whatever information I get, I'll bring back and share with the planning commission next month.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I have a question. Is there any information about what the need is? I mean, how big they need to be in the future? Is this gonna extrapolate?
Well, each of these documents speaks to that, and there's 2 theories. One is that it's just gonna keep going and going and going, so they're gonna need to become bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, there's 3 theories. The other theory is with everything electronic, the better the technology gets, the smaller it gets. So eventually, the larger scale data centers won't be necessary. And then I've heard several people say that we're at the peak of AI now, and I'm not saying I agree with any of these, but we're at the peak of AI, so 2 years from now, some of these data centers are gonna be empty, and there's gonna be less and less need for them. But that also raises issues, what do you do with those buildings? They're very specialized. It's not that they can be immediately turned into a warehouse or something, so that's why I think it's important to have zoning regulations to deal with that aspect too. But the need, we had a lady who came to a meeting a couple months ago, and her thought was, well, it'll be difficult to demonstrate a need in Banks Township. My opinion is I don't think the township or any township is going to be the one determining whether or not there's a need. I think that's going to be at the state level, and I think they've already done that. So the state currently is very pro data center. So I think the decision is whether there's a need or not has kind of already been made. So I think it's important to study up on this and come up with some regulations.
Is there a difference between regional need versus capacity need?
Not that I'm aware of.
Meaning that, do we need to have one in Upper Michigan to cover Upper Michigan, or if something has enough, an Alpena had enough
Yeah.
quantity or whatever to capacity, that they could cover it.
It could be, you know, and I mean, it depends on, to me, I think AI is just gonna keep getting more, you know, more and more and more things are gonna be transitioning to AI, so the need, I think, is gonna rise, not fall. So I think that they're gonna keep looking for property to do data centers. Right now, they need to be close to a strong electric grid or have transmission lines to it. Lot of water, lot of land, but as they reinvent the wheel and make it better, I think that's gonna get smaller and smaller and smaller. You know, some of the discussion in this is, well, they can be self-sustaining, they can generate their own power, some of them don't need water, it takes a heck of a lot of electricity to cool it, you know, with airflow, but it is an alternative to having that water cooling, so, you know. I just think, you know, it may never come to Banks Township, but I think it's one of those things that's better to be proactive than reactive.
I worry, I think that it is changing, all of those things are changing, in which case if we make a moratorium, that's one thing, because it's a short term. But if you make a big ordinance are we cutting our nose off to spite our face? Meaning that we make an ordinance now, oh, we can't have one, and maybe we should.
Well, I don't know that we can prohibit them, and I don't think that should be the planning commission's intent. It will be determining where we think is a good location and then coming up with reasonable regulations to essentially protect the residents, you know. The one thing, and even the pro data center piece, they're loud. And it's a 24/7 noise. So that's something that, you know, you wanna deal with so your residents aren't, you know, up all night and living next to a nuisance basically.
And to your point, we can always amend an ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah, just because we have one, I mean, we do it all the time, we're doing it currently.
Yeah, sure.
So we can always amend an ordinance, so.
But it's a changing landscape too, so this is just some light reading material for everyone, and, you know, I think they were both really well written though, and it's kind of a, you know, simple language that everyone can understand, it's not real technical, which worked for me.
That's helpful for me too.
That's all I have.
Okay. Dave, have you guys met, zoning board of appeals met? Okay. And so Curtis, anything from you tonight?
Six zoning permits since our last meeting. Had one, zoning violation that was pretty significant that I managed to work with them and we resolved that. I checked that today and it's all good. Thank the Lord, cause that was a messy one. And then I have one other comment. Had a request from a resident who eventually is gonna do a cottage industry, which we know is okay, it'll have to come before you guys, unless that gets changed by then. But in the meantime, that person asked about, putting up a roadside stand. And, this happens to be an ag. And my initial response was, yeah, no big deal, right? People sell sweet corn everywhere, or stacks of wood, or whatever, right? But I said, I wanna look at the ordinance. The only place in the ordinance roadside stands is listed is in the village. It's not listed anywhere else that you can do that I can see. It's not a sign, like a political sign or anything. There's nowhere in the ordinance that says it's okay to do that. And when I took this on, I was told that, and I forget the exclusionary, whatever, the term. If it's not listed, you can't do it. Well, it puts your zoning administrator in a little tough spot, doesn't it? Because Joe Blow's got a stack of wood for sale over there, and somebody else down the road, their kid's selling sweet corn, and so I'm kind of in the spot right now, not knowing quite what to tell her. Like I said, the non-intervening government guy that I want to be would say that's just ridiculous. You know, have a stand out with some cantaloupes and whatever. I mean, you're not going to affect Mr. Frisky's business with that. But I find it curious that that's the only place that it's listed in the ordinance, a roadside stand. The fact that you have Frisky's Market in the village and you have Royals in the village that are both, whatever they were back when it was started, were, more, certainly less than they are now. I'm just laying that in front of you because I don't quite know what to say at this point. I could be called a lot of names if I say you can't do that. It's gonna be, well, so-and-so's doing it, and they're doing it, and they're doing it, and I see them all over the township. So, I'm gonna leave it to you guys, say, why don't you just ponder that, and you can decide whether or not there needs to be any verbiage in our, ordinance that would expressly allow that,
Okay.
alright?
Doesn't it, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, doesn't it make sense to add it as a cottage industry in all the places that we permit cottage industries?
Cottage industries are in a separate building. I don't know if a roadside stand would really fit
Yeah,
under cottage industry.
right.
It might, the way it reads, I mean, and that would be my suggestion for this lady is when you apply for your cottage industry, include the roadside stand in there. But it is,
But when your kids sell
Yeah.
sweet corn, you're not coming to this committee saying,
Right.
is it okay?
But yeah, because you can't enforce that in ag. If I want to put a roadside stand up and sell my sweet corn,
it should be allowed in that.
it's an allowed use.
Yeah.
You can't tell me I can't sell my egg.
Is that right to farm or is that cottage industry?
That's right to farm.
See, there's a difference there.
Well, and the way that it reads in the village too, 50% of, this was in the roadside stand, 50% of what is sold has to be produced on the property. Yeah, it's interesting that it's not an ag, I'm not sure why it's not.
It reads agriculture, including both general and specialized farming, tree farms and forestry. That's the line under ag. That's the line in all the districts. And I understand what you're saying is as a farming operation.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that, right to farm, I get that. But somebody with a big vegetable garden, that's not a farming operation.
It is. Just like the lawyer told us, if you got 3
One
hens
chicken.
and you sell one
One egg.
egg, you're not
Who
cottage,
told you that?
you're egg.
Our-
Catherine.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yes. You're not cottage. If you're raising chickens and you sell one egg, you're now a
And
farmer.
this is a moot point.
So
But should we add it just to be safe? I mean,
As long
I
as
mean,
the-
Curtis
as long as the
wondered-
administrator knows how to interpret it,
Yeah.
that's
I
fine with
think,
me.
if Curtis is wondering, we should add it. He's not gonna be here forever.
right.
well, and since we're going
Not,
through
not that I want you to go away, but I'm just in the future.
we're in the process of going through the
Allowed
sections,
uses,
so,
yeah.
I can just
What was that?
bring them all back, just add.
We're going through the allowed
road
uses right
stand
now.
to ag.
It's good.
Could it be listed under definitions? Could a line be
A
put under
road-
there,
Oh,
agriculture that, to include sale of goods from the property? I don't know what the definition right now is for ag, but.
Well, I think it needs to be because then you're going to fall into if this person in particular gets told they can't do it. Well, then they're going to go around and say, well, this person's selling wood over here and this person's selling this over here.
Well, I'll add it in there for when we, have everything come back for review.
okay. And do we wanna, should we do a pros and cons of just adding a definition versus putting it in the ordinance?
Well, the definition currently is the use of land or tilling of the soil, raising of trees or field crops, or animal husbandry as a significant source of income.
Oh. So this isn't a significant, mostly,
Again, if you got three. you got
She
three
plants
hens and
she
egg,
plants an acre
she
of rye
says
and makes
it
some
is,
rye
and
bread.
that's, I'm not trying to muddy the waters, it's just you understand how cloudy this gets for me when people ask me these questions that seem like no-brainers,
yeah.
This only ag too, or other, you could have a lemonade stand in a R1.
It's allowed, like an R1.
It's allowed in those,
agriculture.
I see.
And I see a
That's kinda
distinction too
ludicrous.
between like somebody who cuts some firewood and they're just selling it till it's gone. It's not like an ongoing.
Right.
Whereas a roadside stand, maybe it's gonna be.
Start out like
once a year,
Friskies,
every
yeah.
year.
Yeah.
So,
But the roadside stands I see for firewood are selling to the campers coming in where it is.
it's now all the time.
It's all the time, which
Well, I'll add that and when we get when we bring everything back, you can look at it, let me know.
Okay.
What we need to tweak.
In the
Okay.
meantime, I'm gonna go with what we just talked.
All right, sounds good. Anything else, Curtis? Okay. Wonderful. Do you have questions for Richard? Anybody? And, you got the minutes, they went out to you on 7/31. I'll have questions on, when we get to the map thing.
Okay.
We'll see if we can clear some things up. All right, moving on to Natural Resource Extraction Ordinance. I have, quite a few notes, so bear with me here. Yes, it's helpful to have this numbered line, so it'll go a little quicker, we can follow each other. And I'll just go ahead with mine, you guys chime in as we go along. Page 3, line 125. Page 3, line 125. We talked about pile height or pile control. I think, or that was a question for Catherine. I would propose that we strike that. That gets addressed on page, on line 293 on page 7. That gets addressed, so it's redundant. And on, if you would skip ahead with me on page 7, line 293. I would add, with consideration given to location and proximity to adjacent properties. I would add that to line 293. We want to make this a case by case. It depends on the property that surrounds us, and it depends where it's at. So it says the maximum height of stockpile of mineral materials shall be determined by the planning commission. And I would add with consideration given to location and proximity to adjacent properties. Any problems with that, guys?
What's your reasoning or thought behind that?
Everything or just?
Well,
This is everything, but this is.
I don't want to put a
already taken
maximum
out. Anything
on
that's
height
crossed
pile
out.
because
I know,
if it's in a,
but, I mean,
if
is
it's
that
in a
all the ordinance?
perfect
The whole-
location,
This is just the sand.
they
and
can
gravel.
make it as high as they want as long as
I
it's
know,
not
but
impacting
if you give me
neighbors.
that, I guess
Mhm.
I have to
Um,
get organized.
So that would be my rationale. Our current, so we have a police powers ordinance currently, it's on our website, and it says that the height, let's see, it says no stockpiling of sand in excess of 1,000 cubic yards or higher than 15 feet. That'd be tough, I think.
That's a little pile.
That's a little pile.
That's a little pile.
That's our current, or, the police powers ordinance, that's in our holding place. So anyways, that's what I would say. That's my rationale for that.
But the police power ordinance
Will be repealed.
will be repealed,
Right.
but I mean, originally that was taken into someone that has property that's not an excavating, or maybe it's an excavating company, but it's not a gravel pit. They want to strip some soil off, or it made it possible for them to use their property, but they're not putting in a gravel mine. I thought that was the reasoning behind
For the-
that
For the PPO.
for the PPO. Or those little differences in the PPO made it allowable for someone
keep
to,
moving forward.
yeah.
Okay. Well, do you, I guess I'll throw it back to you then. Do you want to set a limit on the size and height of stockpiles? If you aren't in agreement with that suggestion.
No,
I think case by case.
Okay.
Marv, how high can the normal machinery pile? I mean, do you know?
Yeah, they can get a secondary elevator and they can go 75 feet.
Right.
And-
Which is,
I mean, you look at Elmer's out
Right.
there and those piles are really high. They're 50 feet at least.
Yeah, so I think we just need to look at it based on where the location
the
of it is.
location, right?
Okay. Page 4, line 141. Ken, there was a note here in red. Can you please remind me what would, give an example of what that may entail? Add process to amend rehab plan?
So we talked about, under this, it requires the applicant to submit a rehabilitation plan. And we had talked about, should we have a process that, let's say, they're underway and they decide for whatever reason, we need to amend our rehabilitation plan, we need to change something. Should there be a process in there that would allow the operator to do that?
Okay, that's helpful. I would strike that because we do make a process and it's further down, but would you put a thumb there or a footnote there and I will tell you where it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to skip ahead, it's page 11, line 498. Line 498. It says, it talks about the zoning administrator. Okay, I'll just read it. Here we are. Make more sense. Everything has to be going along in conformance. The zoning administrator finds that the operations on site have departed in a material way from the approved permit. The zoning administrator, and I would write, shall require an amended plan. The plan shall describe the special or unusual conditions that justify the modification from approved plan. And so I think we're covered there. It's hard to get these bits and pieces. I want you to have the full context. So the operation's going along, life happens, circumstances come up, but we want the operator to have an ability to amend their plan. And the plan shall describe the special or unusual conditions that justify the modification from the approved plan. I would insert that.
Is that specifically for just reclamation, or is that we want to go forward with the? I mean,
can we add? Good point, Dave. Can we add operations and reclamation?
Yeah. I think that's a good idea.
because I think it's two different processes.
It
I mean,
is.
a reclamation is okay. We're not going as far. We didn't find what we're looking for. We're just gonna go back. Versus, hey, we found more. We're going for more.
Yeah,
Um,
that gives them the ability to flex there.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, so does that clarify that, Ken?
Yes.
Okay. All right, on page 6, line 264. We want to specify there, allowed in zoning districts subject to requirement and section. The section is Article 8, Section 8.01, 8.02. And that talks about uses subject to special approval and supplemental site development standards. So I would just specify there, Article 8, Section 801, 802.
And so that, the thought was that this potentially could be allowed in any zoning district as long as they can meet all the.
That's our current.
And I like that too. I like that better than the township saying, no, it can only go here, it can only go here, because how do we know where a good location is?
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, page 7, line 316. We had talked about slopes. We were gonna maybe ask Catherine about that. I don't know, maybe I might have that wrong. But our current says side slopes, perimeter of, excuse me, let me rephrase it. Side slopes on perimeter, 1 foot vertical, 3 foot horizontal. And then I would add, I'm pulling language from our current. The slope extending into the water shall not exceed 1 foot vertical for each 5 foot horizontal from the edge of the water out to a depth of 5 foot. So there's a distinction between just plain old dry land and water.
Okay, that's in the current ordinance,
It is.
okay.
Any problems with that, guys?
No, I think that that slope was pretty standard in most of the anything we've read. Yours just being more specific.
Yeah. Page 8, line 360. You had a note, can elaborate on approval process. After receiving approval recommendation from the planning commission, the township board shall approve a permit. Okay, on the bottom, there's a note.
Yes, and I put may on the, you know, rather than shall, because the township board should have discretion. I thought, so I made some tweaks to make it, you know, consistent with the planning commission, discussed. We want the township board to approve these. You know, the planning commission makes a recommendation, but the board ultimately approves it. I'm comfortable with the way that it reads, but I just didn't know, should we elaborate on the process? I was good with the way, but I did tweak it a little bit, you know, to have it be a reoccurring theme that it's a recommendation from the planning commission. The township board is the ultimate yes or no.
Okay. I was wondering where you were going with that, because there was a number of those at the end specifically. But it is, I know Alex just asked for final approval, the final approval of application. It is the role of the planning commission to do the administrative review.
Yeah, and make a recommendation,
Mhm.
you know, and it's gonna be if everything works properly, it'd be a rare occurrence that the board would go against a recommendation of the planning commission.
Yeah,
So the planning commission does the work and, you know, dots all the i's and crosses all the t's.
okay.
So I was comfortable with the way it reads, but I just didn't wanna assume that everyone would think the same way.
Okay. I am, so, alright. Page 9. Line
Sorry,
382.
confused. We've been after this for 7 years.
Line 382. Okay, we talked about, so our current ordinance, it has to be biennial, every 2 years. This one wants you to have a planning, a public hearing every 2 years, and I think that's burdensome on the operator and everybody else. And our current one says their permit is good for 2 years. So in that 2-year time, if there's anything amiss, you know, you still have lots of wiggle room for the zoning administrator or the board.
I didn't get that. Could you
to
try again?
Make adjustments. So that's crossed out altogether. Do we want to keep the 2-year? Like, I don't think they should have the permit indefinitely. So I don't see anywhere else in this ordinance that limits the permit, or not, I don't want to say limits, but specifies a time period. So I would keep it biennial, every 2 years, or however you want to say that.
So what do we want them to do every 2 years?
Have a review with the administrator, that's what I would say. That
Mhm.
way, if there's been any problems, then he can refer to us, and if there's no problems, just renew it.
Right.
And in the current one, I thought we made it easier enough for the operator to have the back and forth. You know, it's just a matter of communication, and I think that process is in place.
Okay.
So I would like to see, I don't want to have an indefinite ordinance, I guess is how I want to say this. The permit isn't granted indefinitely. It already says it can't be transferred from one owner and operator to another, but I think every 2 years is it's our current, and I'm comfortable keeping it with our current, if you all are.
Well, yeah, I guess as long as it's just a review with the administrator saying, hey, things are going fine.
Yep,
Nothing's
check,
changed.
check,
Check.
Right.
Carry on, and not this long, drawn out process every 2 years where we're
Right,
having
it's-
public meetings, we're doing this, we're doing this. If it's granted, it's granted.
You're not suggesting a renewal, a whole new permit process again?
No,
Just
With
a review.
fees, no
No,
fees?
no, no. No,
Okay.
What would spark that review? Is it up to the operator, or are we out
I think
looking at, I mean, just Curtis, or
the
whoever,
zoning-
the zoning administrator, know when these would be up for review, or?
Yeah, I would say yes.
I would say yes.
Like the zoning operator knows when the operations start, and then now you have a 2-year window to go to operate, and then every 2 years look at that. I would put that on the zoning administrator. Is that what we need
Yeah,
clarification on?
yeah.
Okay. Okay. 10. That's all I have on that. Page 10, line 4. Oh, excuse me.
Like on 9 here,
Mm-hmm.
I just working on projects like this with a buddy. If you gotta wait till 7 in the morning to load a truck, I mean, I can see not having your processor moving or something like that, but to not be able to load a truck to haul out before 7 a.m. is,
What are you suggesting?
I mean,
You do have to have hours of operation.
oh, I agree.
Primarily seasonal. Light at 6 a.m. in the summer, not so much in fall and spring.
I'm fine with the 5:30, but I would say 6 a.m. to start. Because a lot of your guys that are due cement jobs and stuff are trying to, I know guys that they're done by 11 o'clock in the morning. Because they're laying their pads, they're laying their cement. When it's cool out and the sun's not out and the sun's up and hot, we're done for the day.
Okay.
So I would say I would change that from 6 a.m. to 5:30.
You mean from 7 a.m.
From 6 a.m. or from 7 a.m. to 6 a.m.
to 6 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion, guys?
Might depend on where, because this is for any district, it might depend on what district it's in. I mean, technically, right, could be an R1 or CR or ag or anything else. It might make a difference how close they are to people.
Do we have hours on
Current?
current for our garbage trucks?
Oh.
Because I know Gaylord does. So, again, if we're not, and I'm the guy that lives right next to the pallet mill too. So, if they got an order, they're starting early some mornings. And it's just it's background.
We're not talking garbage trucks or cement trucks or.
I understand, but if that is our concern that we're being loud, then we're prohibiting one industry, but we're not prohibiting other industries.
How about this? How about if we, I can look at hours of operations for other similar ordinances and revisit that. Are you okay with that, Travis?
That's fine.
And I'll try to find an average starting time. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, those guys, I mean, they're make hay while the sun's shining, I mean, and it is seasonally, so.
And you would like to see us move it to 6 a.m. versus 7 a.m.
Right.
Okay. Can I do some more research on that?
Yeah.
And we'll come back to that.
And again, you're probably not going to have them going every day that early, but
If they want to.
if they want to.
All right. Anything else on page 9? Or if not, I'm going to go ahead and move ahead. Page 10. Line 426. At the bottom here, there's a red add-in, notwithstanding the foregoing church in Maine. And I just, I wanna, clarify that a little better. I'm not suggesting that they don't use Church and Main, as it says, notwithstanding, but I would wanna add that they know why, and, and it's because it's a school zone, to avoid the school zone, 30 minutes before school is in session, 30 minutes after dismissal while school is in session, rather than just saying avoid that, and just, or even just insert school zone during school operation or school hours, or if I'm an operator and you tell me I can't use Church and Main, I want to know why, I guess. And most people know why, but I still want to put that in there. Do you think that's clear enough, notwithstanding
Well,
Church
would
and
it
Main?
be just, I mean, this is saying you can't use them no matter what. Are you
No.
suggesting it would just be during
School.
school hours?
Only while school's in session, which obviously in the summer it's not in session. So spring and fall, I this is one suggestion, I'm one voice, but I would suggest avoid, and that should be a may, not a shall,
Mhm.
because there is an operator right across the street there. Avoid the school zone 30 minutes before school starts and 30 minutes after dismissal while school is in session.
Do you
I
mean
don't-
just a
oh, go ahead.
window at the beginning and the end of school, or the entire school day?
No, only 30 minutes before it starts, 30 minutes after dismissal.
Okay.
Try to avoid Church and Main. However,
That whole day.
no, not all
just,
day.
Just before,
No, while the kids are
Both
walking to
ends.
school and when the kids walk
Oh,
home.
I see.
And I guess I look at it as being somebody that drops their kids off at school in those hours sometimes is we don't have any enforcement. Just yesterday, I watched 3 cars run the stop sign by the high school. Nobody was doing the speed limit. We've got no enforcement. We have no police action to do. An ideal, the kid driving a car, the person driving the car, the BMW I watched take that corner about 40 miles an hour without stopping the other day is my concern over a gravel truck driving through the area during school. It's the cars that, in my 15 years working here, I never handled a truck accident in town. Handled lots of car accidents. None of them were involved in a truck. And that was when House was operating in town.
it's just a suggestion though. It's
Yeah,
not-
Right, and
it's a
I'm
may,
saying-
not a
yeah,
shall.
Right.
And I can't, there's nothing we can do in this ordinance about cars. I don't disagree with you at all. But I would, again, I'm one voice of 5, so I would suggest
I
that.
think if it's just a may, would you please think about avoiding during these hours? That's kind of useless.
Yeah. Oh, you
Yeah.
think it's useless?
Yeah.
I think it generates goodwill. Like, look, we're following the rules here. We're we're for your community. We're for school. I don't, again,
Yeah, I don't. It's not a big deal either way, because it doesn't really. It's like
you're not going to enforce it.
It's not enforceable. Going to be enforced, so it doesn't really matter, I guess, if it's in there or not.
Okay.
I have a question though. In terms of road use, does MDOT have any? Because technically I live in Banks Township, but we're sort of Norwood because I have to go in through Norwood, and just before we moved there, there was a gravel pit down Norwood Road, and it got closed because it was a big thing. And the biggest thing was it destroyed the road. I think noise was another one, but the big thing was that. And so I don't know, are there guidelines about certain roads are better for bigger trucks than others?
There are weight limits, that's enforced by
And
the state police. But this section 2, it's
Actually, the
requiring-
weight limits are enforced by the county,
Okay.
not the state police.
Okay, not state. This section 2 is requiring the operator to submit essentially a route plan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's saying, you shall not include those streets, and I understand, so it's not really enforcing, it's when they apply for the permit, they're required to submit a plan, and we're dictating what streets they can and can't use.
All right.
So
Well,
it should be a shall, but I understand if you wanna either take it out or just have it before and after school hours.
I guess I'm hearing just take it out. Which I was just a suggestion, and if it's not going to be enforceable, then
when
We need to
when,
drive up the word count for
Yeah.
something that's not enforceable.
when we started this whole thing, there was, and I'd have to dig through amount of paperwork, but there were some places that had the gravel pit that there was something in wordage and how that they were required to basically pay to help fix the road or maintain that, to a like a class A level or whatever, that, if this is a secondary road that doesn't, isn't really built for trucks, that part of that, do you remember that?
I do. I just don't know how that would work. And so, what is your point? You'd like to see some language in there about
Well, yeah,
that?
is there something, if you've got somebody that has a, pick on Eaton Road, that there's a gravel pit on Eaton Road, it's not built to run those trucks. Okay, yeah, they have a gravel pit there for 10 years now. The road shot. What is their contribution to the county and the township to putting that road back so it can be traveled?
Yeah.
Well, and maybe this will help. So the way that this is written is, the operator says, okay, these are the roads we're proposing to use. And the township, in conjunction with the County Road Commission and MDOT, are supposed to approve those routes. I mean, that might be a way to, if we know it's a bad road and the planning commission might say, well, we shouldn't use this road, it's not graded for that type of a truck, might be a way to deal with that.
Right. But there's gonna be some places that, that's the only road in or out.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I agree with Travis. We might want a stipulation to say that they are responsible for upkeep of that road.
My only concern is there's a Michigan State Supreme Court case that says you can't require off-site improvements in your zoning ordinance. So, I mean, we wanna have Catherine look at it, but to say that what's happening on this site, you're gonna be responsible for paying for improvements to a road it might get tricky. I'm not saying we can't do it, but I'd want her to.
and I don't know. I just remember that got brought up
Yeah.
that there was something. Is that, and I'm not saying no, you got to pay for the whole, putting
Yeah.
a road in. It's
It's not a
Right.
bad idea,
But-
I just wanna make sure we are on solid ground.
And I
Yeah,
think
me
Norwood
too.
got stuck with fixing the Norwood Road, so.
But the other side of it, as an operator, what they pay for a tag, for a license plate. I mean, that's all figured in, and that's supposed to be on the MDOT. But to your point, the AAA road in the UP, that was all built by the mining company, totally funded by them. But so, I guess that's a gray area. I personally want to stay out of. I mean, I don't know how to move forward with this.
Doesn't our requirement of the operator has to list their specify their haul routes,
Right.
would give opportunity to address
Review?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the way
that. So
I
if they
envision
came on
this-
Eaton Road, we'd have a chance to say, wait a minute, we gotta do something about this road before you could start doing that there.
In the way I envision this is the operator, when they're submitting their application, they're gonna say, these are the routes we wanna take, and this is why we think this is a good way to go. And then it will be for the planning commission seeking input from the road commission or MDOT to say, yep, we agree or we don't agree. And,
Mhm.
so there's a check and balance in there, I think, that is pretty good, and we can always amend it if it doesn't work.
Okay. All right. So scrap the
Scratch
church-
that last sentence?
yeah.
Okay.
I think we're still on page 10, line 30, or excuse me, 430, line 430, page 10. I don't want to red strike 6A. If that was miscommunicated, I think we need to say that during non-operating hours, the site should be left in a safe condition, and that's all it does. I don't want to scratch that. I would add that back in. As far as the after hours regarding the banks and the slopes, and it seems burdensome to me. Okay, also on page 10, line 460, This says, let's see, the processing plant and equipment for sorting, crushing, loading operations shall not be closer than 200 feet from any property line. Our current ordinance is 150 or from the property line and 50 feet from the nearest street. So that gives them a little more wiggle room. This ordinance, as Travis has pointed out, is from a really, an area that's high, touristy area, so I guess I would give them more slack and say 150 from the current property line and 50 feet from the main street. Any thoughts about that, guys?
That sounds good. What about the 1,000 feet from a dwelling? Is that consistent with our present?
Let me check.
The next phrase there.
Yeah, let me check on that. So that's line 460. I can look that up real quick, but
Because we've been using that 1180 and everything else, right? Is it
a 1320.
1320? Yeah.
Oh yeah, so we have that 1320 foot buffer for residential, quarter mile buffer for residential. So I don't know that, I think maybe you could 1,000 feet from existing dwelling or 1,000 feet from residential. Actually, it's 1320. Let me double check on that. But I would propose moving it to 150 from our property line, 50 feet from the nearest street. And now I have a question on residential. You wonder about residential, Richard?
Mm-hmm.
Alright, I'm gonna keep moving ahead. I can look that up though. Page 11, line 484 and 487. Okay, this is where, oh, no, it says the township board shall require the posting of is that what you're thinking about? I think that's a planning
Well, I was thinking that, ultimately the permits, the way this is written is coming from the board, so it's kind of the board that is imposing all these requirements,
okay.
That's
what I was gonna say. Can we just say it without assigning PC or board? So can we say there shall be a posting of
Yeah.
keep out danger sign?
Yeah,
And then also, there may be a requirement of compliance with other conditions as necessary, instead of, again, they're signing the township board.
yeah, you can do that.
Okay, I would propose that. And let's see.
Dynamite over at the quarry that would move.
Our current ordinance, page 10, line 484. Our current says, signs placed every 200 feet, not every 100. So I would keep it consistent with our current and make sure they're every 200 feet, not every 100. Small thing, but. Anyone opposed to that?
No.
Okay. All right, and then we talked about the amended plan regarding operations and reclamation. If life happens, they have the ability to modify their plan instead of submitting a brand new permit. Page 12, line 526. Oh, okay. And this is, you explain this, you want the township board to be there instead of the planning commission.
Yeah, I think it's important with the escrow provision that it be with the board.
Okay,
'Cause that's the board, unless I misheard everyone, but the planning commission does all the legwork, makes a recommendation, but the board is actually the body that says yes or no on these.
okay, and I'm not in disagreement, but the last one you helped us determine, but you want to offload that to board?
Yeah.
Okay,
In the last one, we didn't deviate from that Metamora community. We're told that we can't make any deviation, so, this one, Catherine's gonna have to look at all of this, obviously.
Sure.
But I just think that when it comes to imposing an escrow, that should come from the board.
okay. All right. And so that goes kind of same through line 553, excuse me, yeah, 533, same thing, 539. Again, that you struck out township and put PC. And so I am hearing your logic and I'm not opposed to that. And that's what I had. Questions for Ken or questions regarding this, where we're at? So, then we would have another, a revised.
Bring it back one more time with what we talked about tonight.
Mhm.
Now, should I approve everything we didn't talk about to make it just the items we talked about would be the only red line items? Are we at that point, or do we?
Yeah, please elaborate.
Well, so, you know, would it be easier if everything that we didn't touch on, for example, nobody had any changes on page 13. So I would just accept all the changes on this page?
Yes, guys, if you have anything that you want different than
Or
what.
should we still keep it like this for everyone to still see?
I think keep it so when we send it to the board,
They'll-
they can see what was
Yeah,
removed and have a better overview of it.
okay.
I'll look up residential, Richard, and get that to you, Ken. And then hours of operation, I'll look at some of those, Travis, and get back to you on that. So we got a couple details to wrap up on that. Yeah. Anything else on this before we move on?
I guess I keep thinking about that 2-year renewal of the permit requirement. It seems like I understand that we're thinking that this is a different type of industry than anything else we have, but obviously we don't require that anywhere else. Once you get your zoning permit, unless you violate, you don't have any problems. So I wondered if we couldn't just let that same kind of thing rule here. If there are violations, then you've got to deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's not, do we have to require a new permit every 2 years? That is going to end up being.
Again, it's a review. It's just a review. I think it still gives us power to do, to shut the process down in the event. I mean, if you take it away and they just kind of go on and on and on and finally go, hey, we're done, we're walking away.
Yeah.
I think having someone's eyes on it.
Well, there's still
Could-
an annual report required in here too, to the zoning administrator. That
Are you comfortable having a permit issued indefinitely? I guess I am, but I don't know if our attorney will be, and that she's the one that has to defend us, so, I mean, she works for us, I get that. But I wonder,
But again, I'm agreement is if we've got every 2 years, they've got to come and with the administrator, whoever we deem that to be, is okay. You still checking all your boxes, dotting all your I's and T's. Okay, you're good. Then just that meeting and review whatever it's going to take for that is. I agree. It shouldn't have to jump through the whole permit process, but there does need to be something like site check or whatever. If this is what you're talking about, how they're where is it? Where you have to have the engineer come in and do all that.
annual report,
The annual.
it seems like that's
Because again, I guess then basically you're saying how much money did you make off your operation? Because if you got to tell me how much you're bringing in and taking out.
the annual review is the operation going according to the operator's plan. It's not about money that I understand. Ken?
You're exactly right. The way that it was written, and I'm not saying this is a good or bad, it's up to the planning commission, but with the 2 years taken out, the way it's written is the operator, when they come in, they pitch a timeframe, that goes up to their reclamation plan. We're gonna do this for 40 years, we're gonna do this for 100 years. And my thought was that each year they're required to submit a report to the zoning administrator, and that's where you determine, okay, you're on track or you're not. If you're not, it's gonna trigger coming back. So I thought that my notes indicated the direction was to take the 2 years out for that reason. So it's not a never ending. The operator, when they get initial approval, they're saying it's a definite time frame, and then there's an annual check to make sure, okay, you're doing everything right. We'll see you next year. We'll see you next year. But the alternative would be to make it just a 2 year, and then they kind of have to get administrative approval to go an additional 2 years.
Seems like we shouldn't have both.
No.
It's kind of excessive and redundant.
Right.
Well, is an annual report and an annual review two different things?
I think they're the same, basically. Well,
Because if a report from the operator saying we've, everything's going up to snuff, we're on track with, our plan,
Yeah.
that doesn't have anything to do with any violations that might have happened in a review process. We're looking at violations, not how's your project going.
Yeah. Well, and it's labeled as a report, but it essentially requires the zoning administrator to do follow-up, to inspect, to make sure
Right.
that that the report tracks with how things are operating.
and again, the zoning administrator, I'm changing my mind now. The zoning administrator or the board has jurisdiction over that. If they wanna issue a stop work order for any violation or non-compliance, they
Right.
can.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is you don't have to wait for a year. If 2 days in, it's obvious they're not complying with whatever approval they received, there's a procedure to deal with that. It's just the 1 year would be where the zoning administrator is required to check it out.
Yeah, okay. I'm hearing do away with the 2 year.
The permit
Renewal.
renewal. Yeah, I think so.
Subject to, Catherine's gonna have to.
Yeah.
Right.
She's not
Just a
going.
1 year report.
And have the annual report, and if they're either compliant or they aren't, they're either on track or they aren't, and then they're given an opportunity for
Mhm.
remedial reporting.
So when the
Okay.
annual
I
report
guess-
comes, does the administrator go and check it out? I mean, they could
Yes.
write anything they
Mhm.
want in it.
No.
The way that
Yeah,
it's
so it's
written, the
covered.
zoning administrator is required to go to the site and make sure that the operations are,
That's every year then.
being done
Why do we have
consistently.
to do it in
I would say if
Right.
that's the case,
Are we
that-
doing it every year or are we doing it biannually?
The report is yearly, from the zoning administrator looking at operations is a yearly. And it's not just the zoning administrator, right? There's,
And that's the thing too, is it says no more frequently than every 2 years. This is on page 11, starting at line 493, that paragraph. If you go down halfway through, starting at like line 500, every 2 years, the zoning administrator has to require the applicant to provide basically an independent certification by an engineer that essentially everything's being done and consistent with what was approved. So there are checks in there.
okay,
And are you saying to do that every year or every?
This is,
The report, the way this reads, the report's every year, and then that
Engineer is every 2.
certification is every 2. So it doesn't require them to come back to the township but if something's off track, the zoning administrator will alert the township and, they might be back before the planning commission.
So a renewal of permits redundant.
right, okay.
I guess what comes to mind is if this is what we're requiring of our ZA, then that needs to be in his job description.
Yeah, this
I mean,
bumps up.
I think he's compensated enough to do the work,
Right.
but it needs to be listed in that, that's not my job. So
And do we need to address that? That's up to
that's
the
that's
board
the
to
the board,
fix.
but it just needs.
It
I'm
does
bringing-
put a lot of responsibility on the zoning
It does,
administrator.
yeah, okay.
But, it's doable, I think.
Okay.
And my other question too, now, to me, if someone comes in and says, we wanna do this for 100 years, that seems like a long time. But that's because I'm not, familiar with this type of operation. Is that something that you can see the board being comfortable approving, and then we just review it every couple of years? I mean, it's not unlimited, they're gonna have to put a time frame on it, but it could be a very long time.
I mean, we could put like 25 years. You gotta apply for another permit or something. That's, I don't want to be sitting here every year or two going through the whole permit process and jumping through hoops for something that already got approved.
Yeah.
Why would you get another permit unless they
Right.
amended what they're gonna do?
Yeah. But is it, well, and maybe I'm the only one that, is it industry practice for someone to say, come in, we know we're gonna do this for 50 years. Here's our plan. We're gonna have a reclamation plan at the end of that 50 years. And then we just periodically check it over that 50-year period.
Well,
That's
how
the
long?
way that it reads now.
How long was Drunt's next? My place there.
I don't know.
But there's the
Long time.
reclamation plan is already specified that it has to be in phases and stages, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You can only have so much acreage going at a time and reclaim it as you go.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you're
I
not
think-
gonna have a 50-year hole there.
A site to site difference. I mean, if you've got 40 acres, you're only able to take so much off 40 acres. If you got
Well,
500, if you got 500 acres, there's,
but it
I mean,
depends
it
on
just,
your vein of gravel too. You
Right.
get a vein that's,
um,
there's a lot of variables. in
anyone
there.
going into this is probably going to have an idea. They're not going to ask for 100 years because it's good for 100 years.
Yeah.
I would think that they're going to say, hey, there's 100,000 cubic yards of this, and we want to take that off over the next X,
So that might go in the, if somebody comes in and says, I think there's enough to do it for 20 years here, that's,
well, their engineers are going to tell them.
right, that's what I mean. That's what I mean, but that, for the permit process is what I'm coming in to get a permit. I think, my engineers say there's probably, we can mine this for 20 years compared to, this is good gravel, but we think there's only a big enough vein for 10 years. So that's my outlook.
Mhm.
I'm gonna, there might be different time frames for depending on the location and.
Yeah, I know, to your point, Ken, the last one we looked at, when it set a huge time frame, I was like, how on earth could we possibly rubber stamp? We just have no idea what's gonna happen in the future. I'm not comfortable giving this huge
Won't be
time
our
frame.
problem then.
Pardon
It
me?
won't be our problem by then.
It's gonna be somebody's problem, but,
But the way I envision these working is it's the trust but verify. So the operator comes in and says, we think it's gonna take us 25 years. They submit all their paperwork, and then, the township reviews it all and make sure everyone agrees with it. So it seems like a long time to me, but I don't know the industry, so I don't know if it is.
okay.
Well, and maybe Catherine's gonna say, what are you, crazy, you need to put a time frame in there.
Yeah, she may.
Yeah.
Okay. For now, we say
Just,
your annual review.
yep.
Okay. All right, to be continued. Next up is the review. We're looking at special uses versus, permitted uses versus special use permits. And the last two districts that we have here are manufacturing and village manufacturing. Trying to move any columns from one to the other. Did you get a chance to look this over, and if you did, is there anything that you would suggest moving?
I thought that, my thoughts were the village and manufacturing, it was pretty well covered. Like, it wasn't anything out of the ordinary that would go into those zones.
Mm-hmm. I didn't see anything, maybe Ken, you have something to point out, but they're all higher intensity uses. You would want a set of eyes looking, make sure their standards are met.
Yeah.
So,
The only thing that I would say, and this is what a lot of other communities can do, but a lot of other communities are not based townships, is we're zoning for this community. But oftentimes, storage, like a mini storage facility, is allowed as a permitted use. Still has to come to the planning commission, it still needs site plan approval, but those are generally pretty low intensity. Now, I'm talking not the man cave new style ones, but I'm talking the traditional storage unit where someone, you might go there, 2 or 3 times a year. Not everyone's there at the same time, no one's hanging out there.
That's
They're
true.
pretty low, so a lot of communities will allow those as a permitted use in their commercial or industrial districts. That was the only thing that I saw.
Okay. That makes sense to me. It is low intensity.
Now I'm gonna contradict myself. A lot of these newer ones are being built where they have bathrooms. I mean, you could live between here and Petoskey, right on 31 in Hayes Township. I mean, I don't think people are supposed to live in them, but you certainly could live in them. They've got bathrooms, they've got kitchens, they've got like a balcony. So that's kind of been the trend where they're making these where people hang out in them a little bit more.
That's a little different
Yeah.
beast. I mean, because those particular units are going to fall into a whole other line of regulations with building departments and fire separation and versus I have a storage unit right here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, had storage units proposed out in Atwood. Just read an article, the market is saturated with storage units. And I can tell you from owning one, yes, it has. And I can tell you there was 90 in Bel Air 2 years ago. They added 80 over here on Central Lake. They added 300 and something up in Charlevoix at the old Kmart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're good with our units. We'll have some open, but the phone doesn't ring like it used to. So it's definitely, our area is definitely saturated.
In traditional storage uses are pretty low impact. So people, they go, they do what they gotta do, they grab this, they put this in there, and then they split, and they're, maybe come there 2 or 3 times a year. So that was and I'm not saying, it's not a recommendation, it was something that caught my eye.
What do you think about that, guys?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Proposing it as a allowed use.
Yeah.
Permitted.
Yeah.
Still comes to the planning commission, still needs site plan review.
Okay. Anything else before you, so Ken, the next meeting when you come back, we'll have all the changes?
Yeah, and should I present him as a red line, so we can see what we talked about?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's helpful. And make sure to add the ADUs where we added ADUs.
Yep.
And then we'll look at that. And now we have a little bit different policy. We'll look at it. And then now our things need to go to Catherine first before we call for a public hearing. She wants to make sure our language is exact. What we put out there for people to review has to be exactly what we
Agreed.
hold a public hearing on. So it will slow things down a little bit, but worth the effort and time. All right, Lakeshore Zone. Anything else before we move on? I want to go to Lakeshore Zone first before we talk about RV. Mark took a class that he found on MSU Extension class. It's called Lakeshore Planning and Zoning. He shared that class with me. I'm happy to share it with anybody else. So that we are working with the same information, I wanted just to share some highlights and I asked Mark to fill in gaps. We're talking about, as you know, it's Lake Michigan, Little Torch, Sinclair, Ellsworth, and Wilson. Half of Wilson would be the proposed Lakeshore Zone. This has been a future land use designation back to 2008 at least. But in the class, we learned this is specific to Great Lakes, which has an indirect impact on the inland lakes. There's an average of 12 to 18 inches of fluctuations every year. There's going to continue to be these fluctuations that happens in 10 to 15 year cycles. I was encouraged to learn there are 318 units of local government surrounding the Great Lakes. Banks Township would be one of those. And they said that 3/4 of them fail to have any meaningful shoreline policy. So all of a sudden, I'm feeling very progressive. There is Eagle has a big part of this. They define high-risk erosion areas and also critical dune areas. We have 5 high-risk erosion areas in Banks Township. High-risk erosion is defined as the loss of 1 foot of land for a minimum of 15 years. As you know, our shoreline is a public trust. It belongs to all of us. We had the legal authority to create such a thing under the Natural Resource and Environmental Protection Act. There's 2 specific ones. They refer to the Shoreline Protection and Management and the Shoreline Sand Dune Protection and Management. So there is, you may have seen them, these little buildings along the Great Lakes, and they say NOAA. It's like a little white shed. They say NOAA on the door, and in that building, like a small building, is fancy instrumentation that measures lake levels. It's protected from the wind and the waves. And this year, Lake Michigan is up 30 inches from January to current. And just like a big common sense principle, anything you can do to encourage the beach to build for high water will help protect the shore and help you keep your shore. Let's see. We want to make sure to include, or we'll get to that. Anyways, Eagle manages the high risk and the critical dunes. And if you can think of, regarding our green belt, if you can think of that vegetation along the shoreline, just kind of think of that as the lungs of the lake. That's what filters your water and keeps the water clean. And the more of that shoreline vegetation you can keep, the higher the water quality is. And what am I missing here, Mark?
The current, I found 2 different places I found different, but the current high water mark is either 580.5 or 581.5. They were established in, one place said 85, one said 87. Supposedly next year they're going to redo it, and it might change because we've had high water recently. So, and the current level at the moment is 579.5. So technically, it says public use on the Great Lakes is from the water level to the high water mark, which at the moment is 1 to 2 feet. I always understood it was 15 feet from the water level, except that it interferes like with rocks and things like that are put on there because they're not supposed to climb on that, I guess. But and then when you plan for these, low water tends to push sand and rocks up on the beach, and high water tends to pull them away and down. So these are all things you have to consider. And it was harder to find a high water mark, ordinary high water mark for inland lakes. One place they said to just look at where the water level is versus where the vegetation stops. And that vegetation stop is the high water mark. And then you can extrapolate that to like beach areas and stuff. But other places you want to consider is the high lake. Like recently, we had really high water, and some of the houses on Lake St. Clair were underwater. And so in the future, I mean, obviously those are non-conforming, but we want to consider, I would think, keeping it above those levels because water can get into the sewage system. Who knows what they have in the house that gets into the water, and this area, we kind of depend on that. So I think those are considerations to take in. And although they look at the level, I think you also have to look at level and distance. You say, well, if you're 50 feet behind that high water mark but then it's only a foot above. If the water comes up 2 feet, it's going to be more than that. So I don't know how you take that into consideration, but like Marquette has 9 scenario-based plans about how they do this, and some are depending on the use of it, whether there's a hard, like hard wall built there. So, and you would kind of, depending on where you're building and what you're doing, fits into that area. I don't know that we need to do that, but I think, I mean, I had asked Alex about this too, and part of what was to start this was to make a lakeshore zone, not necessarily making any great new zoning regulations regarding it, but to have it in place and put some in as we needed them, which I think is a reasonable thing. I mean, you know, we don't want to interfere with people's right to use their property, but on the other hand, if that ruins the water, and that ruins it for the rest of us, so we really need to, I think, behooves us to try to do something with that. So I think that's about all. We don't have any critical dunes in Banks Township, so that's what I have, I guess.
Okay, thank you. So with that, any questions on that? Of course, I have a question. So kind of in the ordinance, we have an ordinary high water mark, and that's for the Great Lakes. And so I'm wondering if we should put one in for the inland lakes.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a bad idea.
Okay.
To have that, and I can do some research and see if I can figure out what that might be.
Okay.
I imagine it's gonna change. What you're gonna find and what the new high water mark for the chain with all their operations or what they're proposing, it may stay the same with their engineering, or it, you know, they may determine that this is our new high.
Yeah.
Because again, I know people that had 24, 30 inches over our 100-year high water mark in their house. So, and 2 years before that, it was a foot. So, what's the new norm? I guess that's when we're
Right, and that is going to continue to be a moving target. But to your point, I think, and to Mark's point, I think it's to have a place to start, and we can amend anything, but just to get something on the books would be helpful.
They made a big point in this of saying that the amount of total precipitation and the amount of heavy precipitation events has been increasing significantly, which I think, I mean, he might be right, but to me, that makes it, is it gonna be worse? Or, you know, I think we at least want to use the highest water we've seen so far as a minimum, I would think, of a high water mark.
I had a chance to talk to Mark about this before, and you built a home, and you went through all the things, right? All the permitting from Eagle and
Yep.
engineering.
Critical dune and floodplain and all that stuff we had to have, so. Done. And then we ended up having to put riprap on the front because when the lake came up, we would have lost our deck probably, so.
Yes.
and that can be up to a year worth of permitting.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
it took a while,
permitting.
it took a while, although it was in COVID, and so we would have lost it, and we got special permission from the state, and they came in, but they had to wear, 3 guys outside, and they had to wear masks. And they weren't even 20 feet next to each other. It's like,
Oh, the craziness of 2020.
I thought that, I guess, is that this proposal, or
Yeah, so it can send us a draft in May, and I resent that to you as part of your packet.
it seemed like a lot of it, again, going to what people are complaining about, the redundancy of our green belt. And now we're tweaking that, so to speak. And I guess I don't know that it goes far enough for concerns that I have about some of the lake shores or waterfront residential that we have talked about. Maybe we can't spot zone, right? Or
Right, has to be uniform.
right. So some of these things like the RVs and the other issues that we have had, even some setback issues in these waterfront zones. Are those some areas that we want to get into?
That's why I'm doing the flow this way.
Right.
I think it's, what I would propose is that we keep camping and RV and the camping and RV and keep waterfront and waterfront. Separate the two, and I do have a further thought on that. No, I mean, go ahead.
I'm just, along with this ordinance, like I said, this just seems like a copy of the Greenbelt with, I don't, it's not a
Pretty
direct
close.
copy, but there's a, again, the complaint from the public is the redundancy of over and over, and we've got more and more regulation.
Well, again, no, not
I
again,
think,
but
I think it gives us the opportunity to amend some of those problems being the RV, in that if we're creating a new zone, is that spot zoning, if we say now these, RV issues that seem to be the problem in this lakeshore zones are a little more restrictive than, what we've proposed for the other zones, the setbacks on like some of these, double properties that are split by a road, can that be addressed in that waterfront zoning language? I mean, I'm all for the adding the zone for all the reasons, but I don't think we need to add more to our water or our green belt.
okay.
I mean, if that makes sense. And I'm saying these are just things that we've addressed, and they happen to be specifically on the lakefront. The RVs have been a problem on the lakefront. Some of the setbacks, specifically those properties that have a road that goes through them, and they've got two fronts or two backs, depending on where you're at. Allowing maybe a little bit more flexibility on that piece of property across the street to allow more use. To some of the lakefront owners that might be restricted with, like I said, with the double setback that they're stuck with. Not to go back and revisit all the setbacks and write that, but these are what goes through my mind when adding this additional zoning district.
Yeah,
Or is it a zoning district or is it an overlay? I guess that.
this is an overlay. And it specifies where as, so everything, it's all in conservation recreation, so that rules, all the permitted uses in that take precedent. We're just looking to the future here with this, and actually I don't think we're creating, I actually don't think any of our property owners would give us any pushback. I think they'd be all good with this. We're just specifying, this is a very, in our master plan, this is a special resource to this area, and we want to do what we can to continue for it to be a special thing for many years to come. And so as far as the road split, I don't have I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, I'm just questions. Again, things that may give us an opportunity to deal with those situations.
That's a significant, on my road, on Lakeshore, there's quite a few houses. And where I live, there's 3 feet on the other side of the road, so it really doesn't affect me as much. But there are others that it almost splits the property in half.
Right, and they've got a setback from their front, a setback
Well,
from the rear, so
there's a big discussion of what's front. I mean, we tend to consider
lakes are always
lakeside
front. Written in our zoning, lake is always front.
So
But a road that
right.
splits it, you have 2 fronts.
technically, yeah.
So
I mean, I think you should consider it more as a back, but when we tried to pave the road, make it larger, that was a big no because it encroached on a lot of their property. So, and the township wouldn't do it unless we made it 30 feet wide and had a 66-foot
the county wouldn't do it,
Or
to be
county.
clear.
county. Sorry, you're right. Well, part of it came through the township because they would pay for part of it, whatever. But the county, it was Bert
Thompson.
Bert Thompson, right? And I don't know the answer to that either. at
I
the
don't
moment.
either, that split road, I don't, Ken, do you have anything to say to that? I don't think we wanna put it in this, do we?
No.
No, I wouldn't think so. In my experience at least, the waterfront overlays only apply to the portions of the property that would touch the water. So if there's a portion that's separated by a road, the portion that's away from the water would be just not included in the overlay.
Mm-hmm, even though it's still in CR,
Yeah,
okay.
but it doesn't have to be.
What was it? It was like 60 feet, right?
What is?
50.
It said 60 here, but
Oh,
It's
okay, well,
50.
yeah, we
yeah,
could,
that's what we understood.
yeah. I still think, having taken the class and Ken sent us this ordinance, now I can say, okay, I get this and I am comfortable recommending it with some adjustments. On the areas affected, I would make sure that we have the lakes listed and connecting waterways between the chain of lakes. And under the uses permitted by, I would, there's a line that says underlying zoning district, and I would just make sure to include somewhere in there, this is conservation recreation, cause that's all of it. This affects 20% of our township properties. There's, according to Katie Postmus, our treasurer, there's 2,088 parcels in our township. And 406 of them touch the water, of these waters. So it's about 20% of the township that'll be impacted, but again, it's looking towards conservation, preserving what we have. I actually really like this ordinance. I would tie in under number 1. I'll just, maybe I'll back up and say, I kayak our chain of lakes. And we need to have a position statement about what the township views as a priority. I think it's important to put forth a position statement. Here's what our township values, and this is worth protecting. I'm scrambling for my notes, but anyways, I'll move forward with what we have here, talking about the specific ordinance. On number 1, I would make a reference there to the green belt, just say, it talks about to minimize erosion, stabilize the coast, protect water, and on and on. A natural vegetation strip shall be maintained to the extent possible. And I would add C, green belt, or reference this Article 4, Section 411 of our ordinance, so you know exactly what we're talking about when it talks about vegetation. The green belt does list the invasives, and knowing that the green belt, the invasives continues to evolve, the green belt says that it's periodically revised by the MSU Extension Office. So under 1, I would make a reference to the green belt just to increase awareness of that. The first time we talked about this, we said 60 feet was too much, and maybe adjust it to 50 feet, and then include a ordinary high water mark for the chain of lakes. We had a model ordinance to look at, and for Lake Michigan, it was Grand Haven, and this is straight from their ordinance. And I thought this delineates where our authority ends and the Eagle starts. And they had, so I would add number 5 under 4. Under 5, I would add all high-risk erosion areas as designated by Eagle shall be subject to the state of Michigan. No building permits or approval under this ordinance shall be issued until evidence of Eagle approval has been provided to the township. And it sounds a bit onerous, but listen to what you don't need a permit for. This is straight from Eagle's site. You don't need a permit from Eagle to put in a boardwalk, a bridge. This is in high-risk erosion areas. You don't need a permit to put in a boardwalk, a bridge, a deck or platform, riprap, retaining wall, seawall, vegetation removal. You can take out all the vegetation you want. So it's not that restrictive. It's just preserving what we have. And Ken asked us a question. What doesn't get addressed in here is permissible shoreline protection. Well, Eagle doesn't say anything about it, so I don't think we should either. We shouldn't have a higher standard than Eagle. I don't even think that's defensible. So I don't know if I'm answering your questions or not, but that's how I would adjust this, amend this. And I have one other thing to say about this. Yeah, I just think it's important for us to put forth a standard. Here's how we want you to treat our water. Here's what should happen on the water. Because go ahead and take a boat ride. I'm sure you all have your eyes opened if you haven't recently at what is going on I mean, it's all grandfathered in, of course, but of the future, we need to continue to think about that. I don't want to make this overly restrictive. I know that people who care about these issues have a way of creating their own advocacy tactics. Like if you drive around Torch Lake, you'll see all kinds of signs and they get peer pressure from neighbors about what to do with their water. So I don't want to be heavy-handed with this. I just want to say, here's our standard. So, and I think this ordinance accomplishes that. And that's my opinion. So I'm open to any further discussion, questions.
No, I'm good.
Okay. So we would need a new map then. That would go with it.
I think it's sort of the future thing here, isn't it? I don't know, it doesn't include around here though.
Yes, it doesn't include Sinclair.
And Ellsworth.
Right. Right.
And I don't know.
And
does
this
that
is the
include-
future, so
Yeah.
our actual map would be different.
Right, yeah, that future land use map wasn't brought for part of this discussion
Yeah.
specifically.
All right, Ken, if you would put that together, and then we'll take a look at this and see how this settles with you guys. See if you have questions or further tweaks.
Lots of them floating around.
I got it.
All right, RVs. Ken put together what we talked about last time. I want to make sure we're really clear on our goals here. Our goal, per board request, the one that gave us feedback, wanted increased use of time. Making it seasonal May 15th to December 1st. Another goal that I think would be important is to avoid substandard housing situations. We don't want people living in them year round. We don't want people dumping their septic wherever they want. And the other difference of this from our current is that RVs would now be a use by right. Definition of an RV is a vehicle designed to be used for recreational purposes. A unit designed to be attached to a vehicle, and it has to be under 40 feet. So we want the thing to be hauled away when the season is over. And that's not the case right now. There's a lot of properties in CR that are vacant land. I'm speaking in the Chain of Lakes, I guess. There's a lot of properties in the Chain of Lakes where there is only an RV there. So that's just where we're at. All right, so let's talk about this ordinance here. Storage is 1 and 2. 1 RV, any district with a single family dwelling. Second RV has to be screened. Number 2, if you have a vacant parcel, you can have 1 RV on lots less than 2 acres. 2 RVs you can store on lots greater than 2 acres. 3 and 4 are the same. 5 represents a change. 1 RV, any district, May 15th to December 1st. So that's different from our current. It's not the 45 plus 45. It's seasonal. Number 6, 2 RVs, any district, 1 to 3 acres, for 45 days. That increases use 15 days over our previous. And number 7 says up to 4 RVs, any district, 3 acres or more, for 45 days.
I have some comment.
Yes.
I mean, I have no problem with people that have lots of acreage. It's like, well, you can put it kind of wherever you want. On Lake Shore, I'd say 90 or more, 90%, 95% are less than half an acre. So it's a little bit different having some that it's essentially your neighbor that's there. So I have a little bit of leaving this for 8 months out of the year, that for 4 months they can be out of there essentially, 4 or 5 months, and staying. And the other thing was it says occupied and unoccupied. What's the difference? And if they use it for 2 weeks, does that mean it's occupied? So for the whole year it's occupied, or is it only occupied for that 2 weeks that they use it? I mean, because there's a lot of whether it's occupied or not. And I don't know what the difference is there. So, and I don't know. I know there's, in terms of zoning, it's like, well, okay, so it's not supposed to interfere with your neighbors. Well, the neighbor has a $1.5 million house and you put a $50,000 RV next to it that doesn't do much for their property value. On the other hand, I understand they have property on the lake, they want to kind of be able to use it. So what's the happy medium? I'm struggling with that, trying to be fair.
Do you have a suggestion?
Not really. I mean, I would say my suggestion on the one hand would be leave it like it is, at least for under half an acre or under an acre, but certainly under 2 acres is.
So if I've got a lot on Lake Michigan and I can't afford to build a $2 million house, I can't use it.
I agree.
Right,
What's that? Well, or so then do you say that it has to be covered or whatever, or so that you don't see it? I don't know.
Screen.
But you can't, no, I mean, you can't store it there year round if there's not a house there, correct?
No, that's
Vacant
not what they're
land.
saying, that you can now.
Yeah.
What's the
Less
vacant,
than 2 acres.
what's the vacant land? Cause that's a change.
One,
Vacant land storage, not use,
1 RV on lots less than 2 acres.
to store,
For store, this is storage. 2 RVs on lots greater than 2 acres.
for how long?
As long as it, well,
Yeah, there's no.
year round, there's
time.
no
Where,
time.
where are
limit.
you?
Yep.
Storage, 2.
Two.
Vacant storage. I'm glad you're here. So, Mark, are you saying, are you suggesting that it should be smaller so it should
Well,
be
2
smaller than an
acres.
acre?
What?
Oh, smaller than 2 acres?
It's 2 acres now, isn't it?
On
Not
storage, yes, we're still talking storage.
storage.
Yep, 1 RV on less than 2 acres.
I don't know. I totally understand what Travis is saying, and I totally get it. So don't know what's the happy medium. What do you think? I've talked to people on the lake front, and they think that should be 15 days like it is now, and they have to move it. I have 2 next to my house actually, and one guy does move his. He just took it out. The other one has been leaving it all year round. But I neighborly, so we have said nothing and planted trees so we can't see it so much, but I don't know. And it's not so much that that's a huge problem, but who knows if they sell it to someone else? Could it be? Yeah, it could be. I don't know. I totally understand, you know, they have this property and if they put that there, they get to use the lake and that's fair enough.
Curtis, have we had any complaints that you're aware of this year?
No, and I haven't been looking for any because I haven't gone out, because this thing is in flux. And I'm not gonna touch it until you guys figure out what we're gonna do.
Well, I mean, right now it's complaint based, so if you're not
That's
getting
complaint,
any
but I have not
complaints,
had any complaints.
Right.
So to answer your question, no.
do we
Well, I
need,
take it back, I did deal with the one I was mentioning earlier. I had to deal with that this last month, but other than that.
but that's more for setbacks, et cetera, like that,
No.
wasn't it?
Well, it was the area, yeah. There was a myriad of problems with that. So what I hear is, up to now, storage on vacant land has not been allowed. Storage. Use is allowed, that was, but we determined that when we redid the ordinance, that there really wouldn't be a difference between storage and usage when you are using it. So say you pull it up here in June, and then you go back home, so long as you're within that 45-day window, you can go back home and leave it here. So it might look like it's being stored, but as far as the clock is concerned, it's in use. All right. And then we allow for another 45 days so that somebody could use it for 90 days. That's the current situation.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But after
And what's
those
day
times-
one?
And after those days are done, you can't leave it stored on vacant land after you use your 90 days up. If it's vacant, you can't leave it, you can't store it there. Now, do we have a lot of older RVs sitting up? Yes, we do, And like I said, I'm not moving on that till we get this figured out. Cause I know of some that I need to contact. But there's obviously been a change, at least you're.
For storage.
Suggesting a change between storage and use. Again, you're redefining, you're breaking those up. You're breaking them back up, right?
Yes.
They were, yeah.
They're broken up now, but Curtis is right that currently you can't store on a vacant lot indefinitely. This
So-
one would allow you to do that.
So you
one.
broke them up, you did these changes.
No, but this was coming from the planning
Yeah.
commission.
This
I'm
red
just
stripe.
the,
version,
the
so.
scribe.
Well, I know, but I didn't know if he did that.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea.
They've always been broken up.
Yeah, I don't think we should allowing unoccupied storage indefinitely.
No.
That's no good,
I would agree.
because that's just a recipe for disaster.
Mhm.
I'd rather have it being used some, and is more likely to be not
Taken
neglected.
care of, Yeah.
Can't just have indefinite storage on any size parcel.
So that would mean they put it there and for 45 days and they spend a day or two, then that's occupied. But after that, if they leave it, it's unoccupied storage?
Well, if they're it depends what standard we're going by. If you're going by if you decide to go with the new calendar base, May 15th to December 1st, then it won't matter. It's
No,
just-
you're right.
Okay, but
No, I
as of
mean-
right now,
No.
there's this imaginary running clock, which is almost unenforceable, because I don't know when they come in here, when they leave, you can't do it, it doesn't work. I mean, you can't enforce it. That's why I'm just curious about which direction we're going.
I mean, the other thing, currently, they're supposed to get a permit, actually.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know that that's worth keeping for sure, but technically, all those people that have one on there and didn't get a permit are illegal. Because it says
Well,
in there you're supposed to
Well,
have a
we haven't
permit.
done RVs by permit, it's been more of a, supposedly you're gonna let me know, or let the ZA know when you got there, and that clock's gonna run, but nobody knows that, again,
Right.
it's just not practical at all. That's why I would encourage, if you want to allow people to use their stuff during the summer, make it calendar based, so that we know that May 1st, it can't be there yet. December 3rd, it can't be there anymore.
Yeah.
At least you got something that's structured to go with.
We talked a lot about permits and we backed away from that, or the planning commission backed away So the way that it currently reads, and it makes it difficult to enforce, but the scenario where someone occupies it for 2 days, that makes it occupied, and it's a consecutive day, so you can't say, I'm only occupying it for 2 days, now it's unoccupied. Now it's back to, once you occupy it, you fall into the occupied category. And it's gonna be a heck of a thing for Curtis to enforce, but that's the only way this will work.
Your vacant days can't roll over
Right.
into your,
Yeah.
I'm gonna use those later.
Well, that's why I think you just need to go to the calendar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so if you make it the end of December, we
End
had
of
what,
November.
we had a foot of snow before Thanksgiving. There's no way they'd get that trailer out of there.
Which is what you guys need to consider about, when you wanna make that end date.
The argument was deer season extends
No, I know.
past the first of the year. So December was kind of
That's what
starts in November, ends in January. December's
you're not gonna see those people moving that trailer, probably.
I would suggest you not modify the RV ordinance in order to accommodate deer hunters in their RV for deer season. Part of it, if it works on the front end of the deer season, fine, but don't customize it so that, those are the only ones that we gotta make sure we attend to. Say, oh, sorry, after that date, you're gonna have to make other accommodations for your deer hunt.
Well,
Do we
again,
go-
but if
do you
I've
go to
got
a-
a piece of property and I can put an RV on it, I shouldn't have to make other accommodations. I'd be able to use my property.
Well, depends what we're doing.
But December
Perhaps,
1st
what
should
do
be
you-
good.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
Yeah,
December 1st.
we
is
can't
fine.
worry about the seasons that keep going all through January.
If
'Cause
it's
that does
your-
become
Travis, if it's
impossible.
yours, you're allowed to use it all year round. You're allowed one.
It's any single
You
family
own
dwelling,
it, you
yeah,
have, right, every
any district.
residence,
Mhm.
right, every primary residence or whatever is allowed one.
Right.
And that's all year round. So you
That's
can
if
still use
there's a
that.
dwelling there. There's not a dwelling though.
Right, I'm saying if there's not a dwelling there, if somebody's just bringing up camper for
Yeah.
deer season,
They gotta move it.
they gotta move it, you
Yeah,
know?
I like that.
If-
That's
if-
a big, long, generous
Right,
time frame that Travis originally suggested, and I think that's good. But occupied, unoccupied, vacant land
it's just,
with a house, they all gotta go outside of that time frame.
well, I don't think with a house, I think you can.
Oh,
sort of-
yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if
Right,
you've got a
I'm
house
sorry,
there, yeah, I
right.
can
But
keep it on my house, but.
yes, yeah, that's right. Vacant land.
Okay, so back to, so on storage, you wanna see, so number 2, you wanna see all RVs leave December. We're suggesting all RVs get pulled. Vacant land after December 1st.
That would kind of solve what you're talking about
To some
to
extent.
some extent.
I mean, essentially, they're not gonna pull them and they'll be there all year round.
then they're
I
in
mean, that
violation.
seems, I know, but it seems excessive, but
Well, you can,
And
maybe you
if
can
they're
address
putting-
that in the waterfront overlay district. You guys
Well,
can
that's
have
an
more
option.
strict rules there. That's what the whole idea was
oh,
behind it.
I agree. And I think that that's a place, especially they're small lots anyway, and you can't hunt right there anyway. And which doesn't mean you can't come up and stay there and hunt somewhere else. But no, I agree. Because if you have a bigger property, and the chances are leaving it there all year round or whatever isn't a big deal. Plus, that's probably where you're gonna hunt anyway, so.
Do you wanna make this, Mark, you wanna make this, properties vacant, or, let's see, do we want to put a stipulation in here for storage for lakefront zone?
Well, I think they're saying you can't
Well,
store
CR.
it, period,
Yeah, no, okay, yeah, right.
after December 1st. I don't know if we change, I would make it more specific at this point.
I mean, again, I would go, if that's what you're talking about, the small, because then it goes back to if somebody's got 40 acres out in the middle of nowhere with no neighbors and nobody cares.
Right, there should,
You know,
it should.
and the RV sits there all year because they live in a city where they don't have room to store it on their property there. You know, you're basically forcing somebody to go pay for storage telling them you can't keep it on your own property, you gotta go pay somebody else to keep it on their property.
Well, it's not unusual, Travis. It's a very typical thing.
Well, it doesn't make it
For
right.
zoned. zoned.
Again, but if we're charging, somebody's paying taxes year round on their property, and you're telling them, well, you can't use your property year round for what you want to, though.
It's only on, right now too, that wouldn't happen if you had 80 acres or 40. It's only if it's less than 2. So, I mean, I agree with you.
But I agree with Richard, where if you have it, the overlay, because that is, like Dave said, that's where we have issues, is
Right.
the lakefront property, and if you have an overlay zone where you're addressing those issues. You know, there's the trailer right now on Eaton Road that for years they just owned that little, at the bottom of the hill there below Brad's. That used to be a trailer. They came up for hunting season. It was a trailer sitting there. Now there's a mobile home there it's a year-round residence, but for years that was just a trailer sitting there for a bunch of guys that came up hunting.
Is that a small lot?
Yeah, I think it's just a lot cut out.
Probably be grandfathered in anyway.
Well, yeah, now it's a year-round residence, but that's what it was used for, is
Would you like to see this one RV storage, number 2, one RV on less than 1 acre instead of 2? Cause that will take care of a lot of Lakeshore Zone.
It would. I don't know do they have a problem with 2 acres still? If you're saying that they can't store it on an empty lot, 2 acres or less, or 1 acre or less, past December 1st, then what's the difference? I mean, that's what I got out of Travis and Richard.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know if I'm wrong.
okay, quit drinking so much water.
You make it real easy on me if you just say everybody can store their RV on any land all year round. That makes it really easy. Is that what you want?
No.
Nope.
We don't.
So now we've started with what's the very easiest, so we know that anything other than that is gonna be more difficult.
So 2 is all wrong then. It shouldn't be allowed. It's only allowed May 15th to December 1st, whatever. And it has, I guess, or is it only allowed if it's occupied, meaning they came and stayed in it for a little bit of time? Whereas if they just put it there and never stay in it, then it probably shouldn't be there anyway.
Right, we would like to discourage that.
How does he determine that they came up over the weekend?
He does.
Most of the lakefront properties you're talking about, most of them have residents on them. Most of them. There was one exception that we dealt with a couple years ago, you're all aware of that went to court, and they're allowed to do what they do because they had done it since the 70s or whatever, and that was adjudicated in court. That's a separate situation. Pretty much, most of the rest of the pieces down along the lake, all the way down, have residences on them. So if they have an RV there, they're allowed to have that. And if it's December 20, and and they have family coming up, and the kids want to sleep out in the trailer, at Christmas time, that's allowed, because you have your one RV and it's on your property, you can use it all year round. Probably doesn't make any sense to anybody, but I mean, you're talking, what you're talking about as a vacant property and storing them, I don't know of a whole lot of lakefront district
Well,
that's storing them,
yeah.
along the lake.
I
There's a
would,
couple by Mark,
We have 3.
that's like Michigan though, the chain of lakes is considerably
yeah,
different.
that's true.
That's
There's a
different.
lot of vacant
That's
parcels
true.
where
Yep,
there's
you're right.
only an RV. And I, back to what our goal is, we wanna see them pulled out at the end of the season. And
Might I suggest that when you finally hash this out, hammer it out like a blacksmith, that, and you get it to where you want it to be, that might be a notice that goes out to the township.
yeah, some
So
education.
that this is something do whatever backstory you need on it as to why this has been addressed, but here's the new standard,
Yeah,
so that, everyone gets notified.
correct.
Um,
I think, yeah, that would be an important notification, be a postcard
Once you
or
figure it
your-
out, which
Yeah.
you're a little ways away from that yet.
I mean, I think that we sort of answered that question. So we'd say you can't store it past
December 1st.
December 1st. What, you can
Vacant
leave it
lots.
at 2 acres, but vacant lot. And then you'd have to do the recreational use, right? 5 has to be, you're changing it from May 15th to
December 1st.
December 1st.
Mhm. So on number 2, to fix this, on number 2, we say, cause we're talking about storage on vacant land. Would it be reasonable to ask people to, after December 1st, their trailers must be removed from their vacant land?
Under 2 acres. If it's over 2 acres, then they don't have, they can have 2. Are you gonna tell them that they have to move it? I don't know. If it's, when you get bigger property, I mean, it's easier to, and a lot of times they'll say, well, okay, if you store it, it has to be in a building, or it has to have a fence around it, or trees or something, so that you don't see it.
But we can't build the storage building on vacant land in Banks Township.
Okay.
You can plant trees and screen it, but
Well, maybe I mixed that with, if you had a house, if you have more than 1 trailer, then it has to be in a
yeah, the
enclosed
second has to
structure.
be screened.
Right, second one.
I'm sorry, but I missed what about the storage building? I'm sorry, I thought I heard it, but.
You did, but it got shot down.
You can't build a storage unit on vacant land.
Well, the ordinance says you can on ag and CR.
Which is this,
Pole barn can be, an accessory building can be built as a primary structure in CR and ag. That's in the ordinance right now. So if somebody's got 80 acres and they wanna build up a storage building to store their thing in, that says it right in there. You can do that.
Well, if they had 80 acres, they wouldn't have to do that. It's just a smaller parcel.
Right, Mark's talking about the small lots on
Oh, okay,
Lake.
gotcha.
so I think 2 is our stickler.
Right.
2 is our stickler, and we're talking about storage on a vacant parcel. What do you want to do with it? Do you want to have them pull it December 1st, or do you want to let them store it all year?
I don't know if it's still the same. Bel Air used to be you had to move it every 90 days.
When you look at lots of them, like Norwood, and Ken sent a whole thing of different places, and most of them, we are way more
2
lenient
weeks, yeah.
already. That you can't store it at all, or you have to have it 15 days and that's it, and you need a permit and you have to have it renewed. So we're pretty lenient already, comparatively.
We are.
I just want to see him move. Take it, go dump to the thing, and bring it back. It just prevents it from being permanent. Prevents it from it hasn't
Structures.
moved.
It
I
makes
need a
them-
breezeway.
It makes
Oh,
them
they didn't notice
maintain
the
it, too.
breezeway. Now I got an addition.
I can tell you on the Chain of Lakes, there's lots of permanent structures, decking, those kind of things. That I think if we want to avoid substandard housing, we have to ask them to move it. So. And then what the heck are they doing with their sewage and waste?
Right. And
That's all, what's going on with that? We don't want that to be going into our water, so I say, I would propose moving it at December 1st. Or December 2nd, whatever.
Well, the fact of the matter is, if they're bringing it in on May 1st and they're using it all summer until December 1st, they better be pulling it out to dump the tanks
Yeah.
if they're using it.
So that's addressed in 8 and 9.
Okay.
Yeah, that's already addressed.
Right.
They just have to be handling their waste according to sanitation codes. Did we make any headway on this?
Yeah, I think we should stick with not allowing, we gotta stick to that calendar regardless of the lot size. So not even leaving them on large parcels.
Okay.
We don't want people leaving them out in the woods.
So get rid of the acre-based threshold.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
You might be right, only in the sense that people forget it, they don't use it, they get busy lives and it deteriorates. And
Sure, they
becomes
just
a-
rot into the landscape.
Right. That's what happened next door to me,
Right.
but then they took it out and got a new one, so.
And that's what's happening on the Chain of Lakes too, I can tell you. Ken, do you have some clear direction?
Mhm.
Okay.
So,
All right, now I'm gonna ask a question. Do we want to say anything about tents? And tents specifically in the waterfront overlay? Is it necessary or reasonable to include language on tents? And perhaps cap it at 14 days per calendar year in the waterfront overlay, subject to sanitation code.
They count, I mean, in a sense, it counts as an RV in a sense. And then you have the problem of sanitation, so, big time.
Yeah, this would be new, cause RVs have their own specific definition according to our zoning ordinance, but tents do not, we don't say anything about that. And do we want to?
Has tents been an issue?
Yes. Is tents an issue on Lake Timber Shore? Yeah.
So back to our waterfront.
Back to the waterfront.
Right.
So,
Yeah, the one place I know, they bring in a porta potty, but not the other place, so.
We never addressed tents before.
no,
No.
That's never been addressed in the.
no. There are, Ken, is there, I look for ordinance on tents. And, Michigan likes them to be in the campgrounds, pretty much. But I wondered if we wanna say anything about that in our waterfront overlay. Is that like a terrible idea?
No, I don't think so. I mean, just treat it like any structure that wouldn't be allowed in that waterfront overlay area, including tents or RVs, I guess.
But RVs can be in the overlay because the RV, I mean, it's all CR.
But the overlays establishes that setback, and this ordinance says that RVs have to be located in accordance with applicable setback standards, so you wouldn't be able to set your RV within that 50-foot greenbelt setback, or whatever we come up with the waterfront.
Mm-hmm.
So people are currently not supposed to be putting them within 50 feet of the high water mark.
They can't be in the greenbelt.
Right. Yeah, that's with existing ordinances, without making any changes.
Okay.
Tents are in the green belt,
Yeah.
Tents are different, yeah, tents are not addressed.
they're in the green belt.
But they're not, nothing can be in the greenbelt. That's pretty explicit in the ordinance.
It's
That
20
means
feet
nothing's
from the
supposed to
water
be,
edge.
let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I'm not
Right.
sure, I believe you.
I think tents are a slippery slope that it's gonna.
But they're, yeah.
It is, but the biggest thing would be is sanitation wise. If they just have tents, they have a trailer, and then they have a porta potty at one place, so they supposedly use that. They do empty it, so.
just to be a wet rag here, Cindy takes her motorhome out and the 6 grandkids come along and 2 of them wanna sleep in a puff tent.
Right.
Can't do that.
Oh, you can still do it, but we'll cap a time,
Yeah,
put 14
10.
days.
Oh, okay.
Cap it.
You gotta police it.
I'm just probing, that's all,
Oh, no.
I just don't want somebody, a neighbor calling me, say, they got a tent down here and they got kids sleeping in it.
Well, no,
No, you're talking consecutive 14 days.
right. And that helps shoreline. That helps I mean, think about that. I don't know if you wanna add that.
And that would be in the waterfront overlay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think. I mean, if
And
you
I
put it
suggest
next
2
year-
weeks. I suggest 14 days.
Yeah,
Cause what the heck are they doing with sanitation?
right. Right. I think that's,
I can add it in there, we can
Think about it.
kick it around.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on this?
Nothing.
Richard, you ready to move on? Okay. All right. Oh, this is tough. This is so hard. All right, that's why I want to switch it around. I just want to talk about tents primarily. New business setbacks. All right, so at the July 23rd special board meeting, there was a motion to approve the setback amendments as presented and recommend the planning commission to change the front back from 30 to 20 in R1. We've had 2 public hearings on setbacks, February 10th, June 9th. Notice of adoption of our new schedule of regulations was published in the interim review on July 30th, so our new setbacks are in effect. Would anybody, and this was a 4-to-1 vote, would anybody like to take up that recommendation to move R1 from 30 to 20?
Yes, after being at that meeting, listening, because I assumed setbacks were done like, I guess in some order, and from what Katie said, they pretty much just drove around and, yeah, this is this and this is that, and it sounded like the board just arbitrarily picked these zoning areas. And I guess, the letter that I saw from Jesse is, who's in R1, that all used to be one parcel. It got split between him and Egger. So you've got him and Egger in R1, but Ingalls is ag. And then Allward is ag. And there's really no rhyme or reason, for that. It's all, the property outlay is the same, everything's the same. We're really not, I get we want to keep it rural, I guess we want to keep ag. But I drove down Atwood Road, there's 11 fields that used to get farmed that aren't getting farmed. We don't have ag in Banks Township anymore. You got Marv,
Well, we're
and you got a
talking
couple
about
orchards.
setbacks.
I get, so they need to be made. Again, when it was just the township board driving around and saying, that's R1, that's ag, that's this. That's just arbitrary.
well, it doesn't mean you change the setbacks in any one group. Maybe that ag, whatever R1 there shouldn't be R1, it should be ag.
Right.
And so maybe
But
you
if
change
we've
that.
got, why, for the layout of the township, you really can't tell the difference between R1 and ag. Again, that's a perfect example on White Street or Cooling Road, is you look at Todd Ingalls and Dulcie's and Jeremy's, you can't, everybody would assume it's ag. But these two are R1 and this one's ag because it was arbitrary. So why not just make all the setbacks the same?
I did some numbers on this, and to me, it's ludicrous. This is a nothing. Okay, so if you take R1, I just use the lots like we have, 100-foot frontage, 200-foot depth, okay? So 20,000 square feet. So if you do setbacks on that at 20 from the front, 30 from the back, well, 30 is the setback from the road because you have a 66-foot, 33 from the center. The biggest road is 28-foot wide, so I figured 30. So if I do all that, then it comes to 30. So 30 and 20, and the other 20 on the other side. If I figure that all in at the percentage of the 20,000 square feet, it's 52%. And according to this, you can't have a house bigger than 35%. So why are we even considering it? Why would you be that close to the road when you have that much space? 10 more feet's gonna make a big difference? I'm sorry. Plus, I also think in terms of safety, you might ask the cops if there was something, or ambulance, would they have more space to pull off the road and get into your place? So I don't, it's kind of a nothing. What's he gonna get out of, he can't build that big. He's gonna get 10 more feet. I mean, that's my 2 cents then. And I looked at ours where we are, and it says I can only be 30%. Well, with all the, and we have a 20-foot setback on each side, not 10. But if I do all of that, it's only 44% of the lot I can use. Well, we don't, and according to this, it says 30. So again, it makes no difference, I think. I'm sorry, but.
Well, Travis, if you feel that way, go ahead and make a motion. I'm gonna stay consistent. I never thought I think 50 feet should remain. I'm willing to talk about map issues.
But if we're gonna, what's the fix to this? Make everything the same as far as setbacks, or go through and rezone the whole township again?
Well,
we're asked to
that's
do
been our
both,
task.
so.
What's
I-
that?
That's been our task.
Yeah, we're asked to do both. I would say all these R1s carry a 55-mile speed limit. So I would say leave R1 where it is. We already reduced it by 45%. We already went from 50 to 30. That's giving a 45% change, and I think we did what we need to do. Anyways, I would not be opposed to opening this back up and adjusting that again. That's my position. I'm 1 of 5.
Adjusting it back to 50.
No, I just leave it where it
Leave it
is.
at
Leave it where
30.
it is.
Just leave it at 30.
Not put it to 20.
Yes.
Actually, it's at 20. Didn't they change
No,
that?
No, it's at
No, it's at
30.
30.
It's at
But it's
30.
the only one that's at 30.
Yeah, you're right.
Right.
It's 30.
In manufacturing, because of the trucks, is at 50.
Right.
You want to still say?
But and I guess that's my motion, is to put R1 to 30, because again, just using Cooling Road, because that's who complained, is this guy and this guy can't.
But how much more of his lot can he use? It's limited.
It's not, but
is
it's
it a
where he wants to
principle?
where he wants to do it, where it works for him, where he wants to put it.
10 foot from the road?
Yeah, and that's I know
Well, it's from a road right of way.
the road right away.
So that's
Right,
pretty
I
good
know, but
buffer yet,
still. So he's gonna be 50
But there's a
feet.
road where he wants to put. There's a little row of trees between the road. There's the road, a row of trees, and where he wants to put it. But with this, he has to move it farther into his yard where he doesn't want it for
what-
for whatever reason.
What are
Go
we
to Board
talking?
of
Has he
Appeals.
proposed anything? Has he been denied anything?
Yeah.
I mean,
He's
this is,
waiting on
He's
us.
waiting
This is-
because of the setback. He can't put
Okay.
it where he wants it because of this proposed setback. And that's my point, is you got 100 yards down the road, it's ag. And you can't tell the difference between the properties. It's an arbitrary, this is ag, this is R1.
he's known where he's at the whole time.
So you just said 30, but didn't you mean 20?
20, from
Yeah.
30 to 20.
Yes, I would second that.
So are you making a motion, Travis?
Right, to make it all the same, it's easier for enforcement, we're not gonna run into this, and again, what's the difference between a house in ag having a 20
Right.
set and a house in R1? Because you drive around the township, you can't tell the difference between R1 and ag. As far as unless you're getting in the village areas and 31. But
Right, and
Which is 2 of the 3 districts.
they're all 20. except manufacturing.
Right. And I agree
So-
with manufacturing. That needs a bigger setback for all the reasons we've said, but
Did you catch that?
I'm gonna restate it and see if it's what
Okay.
he wants to say. because
And
he's-
is there support for, well, go ahead.
from R1 from 30 to 20.
Front setback.
Because you
Front
said
setback.
all, make them all the same, that's
Correct.
not what you mean. You mean.
Well, to make
say
'em-
R1 the same as ag, is what you were.
Yeah, as the other zones that are 20. And I lost my sheet here.
It's just making, the front setback in R1 20
Right.
instead of 30.
Okay. Is that
And
a
I
motion
support that.
To make
And
the
Richard
setback
supports.
in R1 20.
The front yard
Front
setback.
Just the
setback.
front,
Setback.
nothing else.
Okay, let's do roll call vote. Richard?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Mark?
No.
No.
And I'm a no.
H-E-R-M-L, no. R-F-T-C. Okay.
All right. Let's talk about the zoning map. All right, let me read this one. So that motion failed. Here's the motion from the board, July 23rd. Planning Commission review the zoning map and propose changes to move large parcels from CR and R1 to agriculture and have a waterfront district that would include conservation and possibly combine conservation, recreation, and ag. And that carried 4-1. I don't even know where to start with this other than we need information and we need data and what good questions can we ask to determine how to move forward with this, or if we should move forward with this. I would ask that Ken maybe give us a basic 101, if you would, on what is allowed in ag, like perhaps right to farm. Do neighbors want to be next to someone who has right to farm? And maybe give us a little synopsis of that.
Well, if somebody is protected by the Right to Farm Act, they're allowed to farm, so the neighbors
They're
don't
just
have any say in that.
right.
Um,
The right to farm is to protect farmers from nuisance laws.
Correct. Yeah. Well, and it essentially accepts farmers from zoning for the most part. So the setbacks, pretty much a lot of the things, if it's a true farm, wouldn't apply. But beyond that, what's the,
I just want people to be aware if they're going to get absorbed into ag,
Yeah.
I want them to understand the implications of that.
yeah, and ag, I mean, in a lot of communities, and I think as was stated earlier, not a lot of, the ag district has kind of become more of a residential farming related industry rather than a true farming. I mean, not a lot of people farm anymore, to steal what was said earlier. So ag is kind of a quasi residential forestry and farming related industry district. And I think in Banks Township and a lot of communities.
What questions do you want to know? I wondered about putting together some sort of survey. What are there people that want to change zones? Are you aware of anybody that wants to change districts? Do they want to start at Hayfield and Orchard?
Well, this, I think it came up largely because of Jesse's letter, and now we failed to address that concern about the setbacks there, so, I don't know, I don't care to mess with the zoning map.
Are there a lot of large parcels in R1, like that could be farmed?
Not a lot,
But there are some.
there's a couple on the outskirts
There's a
of
lot
the
of
village
large
here.
parcels in ag that could probably be CR.
Right,
Well, every farmer that has come in this building has said, no one's farming, there's no money in it. Every one of you can be found saying that. I would propose more CR, less ag, and more R1, specifically in areas that we know have been developed because the farms have gone out. To get to Jesse, Eggers, all that, there was nothing there when we were, kids 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Smalley lived there.
Well, beyond that is what I'm saying.
Todd's been there. That was, but again, that was all
Well,
ag.
I'm saying it's been developed.
Right.
The ag has been developed.
That's
I-
exactly my
I-
point.
I would-
Part- it
I
was
would
been
see-
developed in ag, but
I
part
would
of it got
rather
turned
see
R1.
R1 extended all the way to Best Road.
But that's getting farmed though. Ingalls and Dulce's is getting farmed.
But you can farm in R1. You can do ag.
Right, but is that gonna dump, like Dulce, for example, on a single income, is that gonna bump her out of ag and affect her taxes?
That
Well,
makes
that's a
no
good
difference with
question.
taxes.
Right.
You gotta be farming, the distinction has nothing to do with what you pay in taxes.
Yeah, and I,
The zoning-
That's what I'm asking.
yeah, I'm not an expert, but I think that's right. I mean, usually the tax classification and the zoning designation don't.
I mean, you can have 100 acres, you have to farm
Mm-hmm.
60+% of it to even apply for a ag exemption. I mean, you tell me, I'm not a
Right.
farmer.
That's what I'm asking, if
Yeah.
that's gonna bump, again, like, there's cattle pastured up there, we do that, it's hayed.
Yeah, but again, it's allowable use.
Mhm.
I don't think changing the zoning designation would change the tax, but probably the assessor or someone, the treasurer should be asked that. Because I think it's a valid question. If you change somebody from ag to R1, could that have tax implications?
And what's the benefit from changing it from ag to R1?
Consistency that you're looking for.
I just brought up something to make consistency and it said no. So we're picking and choosing
Well,
on consistency.
If,
We want to
Again-
be consistent when it benefits.
if we're guessing the future of what our R1 developed areas, our ag that we might be taking out and turning into R1, like, Church Road, for example, there used to be Hooksmas. Well, now there's Hooksmas, there's a new house going in there. The McDonough's or Rachel, that house is less than 30 years old. Potter's is, so we've had a lot of these areas that have been developed. We got to put our magic ball
Well,
up
can't
there
you
and
build a
try.
house in ag just like you could in R1?
Yes, you can. Yeah, I'm just saying these are areas that are looking to be developed. What do we want them to look like? To try to get some consistency. I mean, we can't put toothpaste back in the tube. Going down Cooling Road and saying, these properties, because it's already there. The houses are already there. No one there is going to build any closer. Dulce's not going to build any closer to the road, I wouldn't imagine. They chose to build off the road, so.
Yeah.
One of the differences between your districts, one of the main districts, if you look at the charter regulations, what's your setback differences? They were different. R1 was set back further for a reason. Cindy asked me why is R1 different than, maybe because when this whole thing was developed, I don't know, I wasn't here, but maybe the people that were doing it thought that maybe there should be a little bit more distance in a low density residential from a road back to a home than in agriculture. Well, now you guys have just gone through and basically homogenized the setbacks. So there's a whole lot less reason to looking at differences here. You go down and look at the permitted uses, ag isn't permitted in all. Ag is permitted in CR, ag, R1. What's the difference? Nothing. The setbacks are now the same, except for the narrow lots, that are still 10 foot on the side. You ask what the difference is and why they are the way they are, I don't know. But you've wiped out a whole bunch of reasons why. The side setbacks were different, the rear setback, there's a reason for that. When whoever developed it, I don't know what the reason was, but there had to be a reason. And I don't know where to go from here, because it's just kind of all, like I said, it's all homogenized now. Because there aren't a whole lot of differences in the permitted uses. There are probably more differences in the, uses subject to special use. You know, there's probably, like R1, I don't think you can do a campground in R1, but you can probably do a campground in ag. You know, so that's probably where your differences are more. I haven't lined them all out. But your primary uses are mostly the same, single family. Now you've done two family with the duplex thing, agriculture. So a lot of them are the same.
Yeah, and obviously houses are popping up all over ag property, so I don't see any reason to mess with the zoning map.
If you look at CR, it's obvious why CR is CR. It follows all the water. You know,
Right.
that makes sense to me.
Right.
The distinction between the others, I don't know what it would be. I guess
What was there a reason that, the Dells is R1? Is there an obvious reason why that's R1?
no, not to me. Not to
Aren't
me.
they smaller? Most of them are smaller pieces, probably, right?
Yeah.
They were actually large pieces.
There are some large ones.
I mean, a majority of them were quite large, which doesn't would make a lot of sense with why there are one. I mean, it was a big reason why
It
it was.
more of a development area, wasn't it?
It's clearly
I mean,
not
it's-
ag anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly
So that makes sense.
those homes and that whole region was built up to be a more of a residential area than
Right.
something in conservation recreation down by the water or the river or ag.
Right,
Well,
but I
the
don't-
development of Antrim Dells prompted the zoning, so they're, you know, the farmers asked for this. Because they saw that big farm get
Because
sold
it
up
became
and,
something else.
yeah,
You
so.
know,
But I don't know, you know, to start going along every local and county road where there are more and more houses being built and start turning more of that into CR, I don't see that doesn't make sense.
the preservation, which is what our, you asked about the mission statement.
Yeah. Oh, I skipped over that. You guys, so we got to back up here. I asked David if he'd read our mission statement. He's our longest serving term person, and I get nervous and skip over what I even write down. I asked David to read our mission statement since we're starting a new year.
The Banks Township Planning Commission mission is to plan land use responsibly following a comprehensive master plan supported by zoning regulation established to address environmental, economic, and community needs while preserving the unique characteristics and promoting health, safety, and welfare for all permanent and seasonal residents and visitors. So, again, I don't want to change the map any more than any of us. But I think adding more ag doesn't do anything. Some R1 in some areas that, again, this is total speculation on us of, yeah, maybe this could be developed or not.
Yeah.
Certainly adding more CR preserves some of that,
Yeah.
but to Curtis's point, the only difference is setbacks at this point, and now CR and ag are the same. So,
one other thing to remember too, is because it's been brought up most of the last several months, that legislation that changed at the
Yeah, the
state
Land Division Act.
about the 10, you know, being able to split it 10 ways. That might make your map look a little different
It
too.
will, and let's pause this conversation. You're going to the same conference, Mark and I are, and they're going to discuss Land Division Act in that. And let's see if that adds any nuance to this conversation or important information. And then we'll pick it back up next month. I don't want to change the map either, but I want to honor the request to do our due diligence, so.
Well, I think the request was based on
From the board.
setbacks, yeah, but
Yeah.
because of the inconsistency.
Well, it doesn't have to be consistent if there's a different land use. Do you see what I mean? I mean, it's not, I don't know how to say this. It is, different land uses have different purposes, and so setbacks should be different for each district. in my humble opinion. Ken gave us a future land use map. How should we think about this?
Well, I thought that might tie into the discussion of the zoning map, because, you know, that is the vision of how properties are gonna be zoned, you know, 5, 10, 20 years from now. So, changes to the map should track with that.
Whose vision is it?
It was the
From the
townships.
master plan?
This was adopted by the township.
Really?
Okay. Anything else, or do you have questions for Ken? Is there any
Did this-
questions or
do you know
information
that
from
it's
Ken
gotta
that would be
find
helpful
out?
to move this conversation along regarding mapping
Yes,
changes?
and it has been in our master plan.
Or what can you add, Ken?
Well, I think that was a good idea. We'll go to
I
that
looked through
NTA
it, but
conference and
I
they
must have
will
missed
talk
it.
about
Yeah,
the
but
new
it's
land
named
division
future
change,
use only,
new
so it's
changes
not,
to the land
it's,
division, they take effect
it's a
next March.
hypothetical.
That might add something to this conversation.
Yeah,
when we figure that out.
okay. I certainly don't have anything more to add. And I don't even know smart questions to ask at this point, so. All right, with that, we would take public comment. Mark,
Reflecting on some of the things we're looking at, first of all, the natural resource extraction. If you look at the proposed, ordinance as a whole, as you're amending it, just wanna point out that what you're doing is forcing anyone in the township that has a desire or a need to put in, natural resource extraction, they have to be a huge company. All those, studies that you have in the list that wasn't talked about tonight, very expensive. The annual review, very time consuming. It just leaves any small operation out of it. It's just, they can't do it, they can't operate that way, they can't use those. Yeah, you have a small allowance for up to 2,000 yards, but that isn't anything that anybody can do to sell any, or, you know, it's just kind of personal, that's very small. So what you're doing in making that ordinance in the fashion that it is just forcing, the only opportunity for natural resource extraction is a very large company with a lot of resources. The RV ordinance, one of the goals of the master plan and the zoning ordinance is to retain rural character, open space. Every time you limit use of a parcel on an RV, you're encouraging and almost forcing someone to build, to make a permanent structure rather than just use it for recreation. So you will be reducing open space, reducing rural character by not allowing people to keep their RV there year round and use their property when they want, whether it's deer hunting or whatever they use it for. If they can't use it the way they would like to, with a minimal use, they either aren't gonna use it, somebody else is gonna build on it, or they're gonna build on it. Just to reiterate what was said, zoning and taxes, there's no correlation between zoning and taxes. It's totally separate. The setbacks, conversation, check the zoning ordinance, I don't have it in front of me, but if the planning commission receives a request for an amendment from the board, the planning commission must deal with that amendment. They must consider that amendment. They don't have to recommend passage of it. They can recommend it not be passed, but they have to consider the language and read the ordinance. I don't know all the details. I think you have to hold a public hearing on that amendment and then have to send it on to the county with recommendation from the planning commission, recommend yes, we pass this, recommend no, we don't. So check that out. I think when you get a recommendation for an amendment from the board, it has to go through the process. on the review of the zoning map, I would really encourage you to ask Ken or Curtis to do a comparison. I mean, there's been talk about what's the difference between the different zones. Make some tables, get it in front of you, so you know what the difference is, so you can consider, what those differences are.
Thank you. Anybody else? Public comment? Once, twice, okay. I would take a
Motion
motion.
to adjourn.
Second,
Support.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Next meeting, September 8th. Thank you.
Thank you for,
Sorry?
thank you for letting me know.
Oh, no problem.
If I didn't make
We
it,
try to
We know
I'd
if
say.
any of
Help
the
each
things we
other.
put away.
I depend on this a
These can
lot,
stay.
and then sometimes
Okay.
I get down here and I
Thank
can't find, or I can't connect or.
Yeah,
And again, we've got 7 years of looking at different gravel construction. That's something that we'll never be up to speed on.
no, I'm not too worried. Well, just that I
Hopefully
didn't
we
have
can just,
that.
hopefully we're to a point where we're getting close to putting that behind us.